So what's the difference here? I'm talking about today and tomorrow, things, events that are happening, right? That could happen, that may happen. It's possible that I won't get up early, but if I do, I will go for a walk. Again, it's a specific event, not a general truth. A conditional is a grammatical object, thing, which allows you to have one thing that's true, or imagine if one thing might be true, and then attach another thing to it. And I'm sure you're familiar with this. We often usually we associate the word if with conditionals. But they're different types. Generally, the grammar people have decided that there are 4 types: 0, first, second, third. And it goes further than that. There's mixed, and let's just say, who cares? We're going to talk about the 0 and first conditional because they're very closely connected and the line between them is quite fuzzy. We won't look at all conditionals, but generally the idea is you have an if and then some kind of statement. You could call it an if statement. For example, if it rains tomorrow, and then you connect another thing that will be true or will not be true, sort of associated with that. If yes, then maybe one thing happens. If no, then another thing happens. But we don't necessarily need to say both. If it rains tomorrow, I won't go for a walk. If it rains tomorrow, I will go for a walk. Okay. It's a little more complicated than that. So I think we need to pop over here to the board to understand. And we're going to start with what has been called the 0. Hey, there we go. Okay, 0. The 0 conditional. Again, this is just a name. Don't stress out about the names of things. Who cares, right? When it comes to the names of things, honestly, I'm not too fussed about it. I don't think it's that important. It can be easy to get kind of stuck or hung up on that, right? But they got to have some kind of name in order for us to know what we're talking about, okay? So the 0 conditional is when we're talking about things that are just true. We're talking about truths, okay? And so because we're talking about truths, the 0 conditional is often going to be similar to saying something with when. For example, when I meditate, now, comma there, I feel calm. Okay. Now, is this talking about a specific time that I'm meditating? Or is this talking about generally the fact of meditation related to me? It's talking about the fact that this thing causes another thing. And it's always true. It always happens this way, right? So it's not focusing on a specific time that I meditate. It's not focusing on me maybe doing this tomorrow and then I will feel this way. It's just connecting one thing to another thing. Now, when I don't meditate, maybe I don't feel calm. Well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. But the point is to connect this action, me meditating, to this result, and it is generally true 100% of the time. So this is the 0 conditional. And you'll notice here, we don't usually use will when we're doing this one, because again, will is part of a timeline. If you're on a timeline and this is now, will is specifically a future thing. But for the 0, I'm not super focused on the will, on the thing that is probably going to or is going to happen in the future. No, I'm just stating a truth, stating a general fact. Let's now remove the when, if I can erase that and fix that a little bit, and let's just say if. So it's the same thing, right? That's all it is. That's all it is. If I meditate, I feel calm. And we can imagine here a little when. When lets us know that it's very concrete and solid. So think about things that have these connections or correlations. We could even say that there's a relationship between these two things. What's the relationship? This leads directly to this. It always does. Okay, you could probably come up with a million examples. We could say, when it rains, we dance. Now, think about, well, I should put if here, right? Of course. If it rains, we dance. Now, think about this one. This one's kind of silly, but what does that mean? Well, it's suggesting that it doesn't matter if it's tomorrow or next year. We're talking about the fact that there's a relationship between raining and dancing. We do this when it rains. Maybe it's a ritual. So if it's a ritual that you have, when I get up, I have coffee. If I get up, that's a difference between if and when, because that's an interesting one. I just thought of that just now. But when it rains, we dance. There's a correlation, a direct connection. So that's the 0. If it rains, we dance. Okay. The truth is, if it rains, we dance. Now, I think that if I meditate one, I feel calm is good, but actually I would choose to use when there, because when makes it feel like inevitably I will do that in the future. And it's something that I do regularly, and if might give people a feeling that, well, it could maybe not happen. Maybe I'll never meditate again in my life, right? So we could sometimes get that feeling from it. Now, I did mention the when I get up, if I get up thing. I wasn't really thinking about that one, but when I think about that, it makes me suddenly realize, yes, there is that difference between if and when, because when you say when, it's an eventuality. It's going to happen when I get up, right? It always happens. And if you say if, well, that usually works, right? Like if I meditate, but if I get up, suggests that maybe I won't. So that one's a little bit odd. Okay, so that's the 0. Now, what about the first conditional? The first. So the primary difference between these, and honestly speaking, the line between them is a bit fuzzy, right? Because I could say, well, we'll get into examples. The fuzziness comes from the fact that often we're saying the same thing, and so it's not clear whether it's the first or the 0 conditional, and it might just come down to which words we choose. The first conditional is much more likely to have words in it that tell you this is a specific time. We're talking about a specific case, a specific instance. I'm no longer speaking generally. I'm no longer speaking broadly about something. Usually I'm referring to a specific thing that happened or will happen or from now may happen, right? And also when we talk about the first, there's often less certainty because we're no longer talking about just a truth, but we're talking about events. So there's, let's say, less certainty. And if you look up examples online, which you should do, you'll see often there's a percentage attached to the first conditional. The 0 conditional is 100%, and the first conditional is 50 to 70%. I mean, that's kind of stupid. It's just less certain than a direct result. A leads to B. That's a truth. Okay, well that then is 100%, and we're not talking about the event. If it's the first conditional, A leads to B, and it's probably. Let's say it's probably true, and we're also talking about a specific event. Okay, so what would be an example of a first conditional? If I get up early, there it could be using if with get up. If I get up early, I will go for a walk. Okay? So what's the difference here? I'm talking about today and tomorrow, things, events that are happening, right? That could happen, that may happen. It's possible that I won't get up early, but if I do, I will go for a walk. Again, it's a specific event, not a general truth. If I say, If I get up early, I go for a walk. That would be then the zero conditional again, because it's talking about every time that I do get up early. It's a truth. And every time that that happens, I go for a walk. So that's zero. If I get up early, we could maybe add in there tomorrow morning. I don't know what that is. Tomorrow morning, I will go for a walk. Okay, now I'm talking about me saying this today about tomorrow and wondering whether or not I will get up before 10 a.m., right? So the feeling is very different. And notice that I have the word will here. Doesn't have to be the word will. It could be, for example, I am going. I'm going for a walk. That's fine too. Often there is some language that suggests that there's a future event coming up if this thing is true or if this thing happens. Now, hopefully that makes the first and zero clear. I want to just mention one thing is that we can reverse the order. This is generally true for conditionals of this. So you could say, I will go for a walk if I get up early. You could say, I feel calm if I meditate. I feel calm when I meditate. The difference there is that you don't have the comma, okay? If I get up early, comma, I will go for a walk. I will go for a walk, no comma, if I get up early. So hopefully that makes these clear. If you have any questions about this stuff, let me know. I know it can be kind of complicated with all of the grammar words. I would just say don't focus too much on the words, the grammary words. Instead, make sure you understand what it is and you know how to use it. The best way to do that is to come up with examples. So feel free to share those with me. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe.